Happy Sunday, everybody, and welcome to another Arkansas football recruiting report. That's Otis Kirk. I'm Jacob Morris. Otis, it's a happy Sunday. The Hogs off a bowl victory, a winning season, and we've got a whole lot more portal talk to talk about. You know, it's like you get a bowl game win, you think, all right, we're going to talk football. No, we got to go right back into the transfer portal. Arkansas with
Exactly.
16 signees as it stands. Obviously, the Razorbacks needed help. 24 guys in the portal, a whole host of starters, and Arkansas has built a good start here. There's still more to do in the portal, but 16 signees and a lot of key positions so far for the Razorbacks.
I really like what they've done, Jacob. I mean, there's still holes to fill, obviously, and they can still get better, get good players too. But I mean, I do like where they're at with 16. They've got one running back, kid that can play immediately. Well,
Yeah.
all of these guys are capable of playing immediately, so I'm not going to do that. Running back, who they're counting on. Four wide receivers, including Courtney Crutchfield and Omega Blake. A couple of 3 weeks ago, I teased on here about two wide receivers. Well, I was talking about Courtney Crutchfield, who wasn't in the portal at the time. I knew he was going to come to Arkansas and going to be in the portal. The some guy who backed out going to Liberty Bowl because it was going to rain, He texted me said it's going to rain. I said, come on, man. But anyway, Courtney Crutchfield is huge. Man, he's one of the best players to ever come out of Arkansas. And then Omega Blake, they didn't get Kendrick Law. That was the other one from Alabama that I was talking about. They didn't get him, but they got Omega Blake, who probably is, all honesty, probably a better player. I had been tipped that they were going to get Law by some of his relatives who live in Arkansas. He was born in Warren, but they didn't. But they did get Omega Blake, and like I said, honestly, probably a better player. And they got Cam Shanks, a wide receiver, leading punt return. They first team All America. And then Jalen Sharp's a real good receiver. Played for Bobby and Ronnie Fouch up at Southwest Missouri State. Then went to Fresno State for a year and played well there. Four offensive linemen, and I think that's probably the strength of the group. I mean, they've done well there. Kittler, the center, Corey Robinson, the second. I mean, wow. I mean, Georgia Tech kid, probably the best player out of the portal. Shaq McCroy. I want to call him McCoy. It's McCroy from Oregon. Man, and then who's the other offensive lineman they got? Well, I got Kavion Broussard, from Ole Miss. That was the one I forgot. Kavion Broussard from Ole Miss, who's 6'6", 300. Probably, in all honesty, Jacob, they're going to move him inside the guard. He recruited to tackle there at Ole Miss, but Arkansas is going to move him to guard. McCroy and Corey will be tackles, and Kittler obviously is a center starting for UCL. I was really surprised he didn't go to Florida State where Gus is at. He was here and was heading to Florida State when he left here, but Arkansas got him. That's good recruit. They've got three defensive linemen. They're going to sign four. Defensive tackles, what's left. Oh, by the way, and on the offensive line, they're still going to sign one more. I have a name, but that might be it. We'll go back to it in a minute. No linebackers, three defensive backs. Kanai Walker, we talked about when we were on here a couple of weeks ago, but that was one of the few they had at that time. But they have since added Jordan Young from Cincinnati, who kind of a jack of all trades. He played corner at Cincinnati. Now he can play all. He told me he can and play and is willing to play all five defensive back positions, both corners, both safeties in the hall. He doesn't care. He just wants to play, and he's good. Started there at Cincinnati, and then the other one is the kid I like, Davius Skandrick from Eastern Michigan. Boy, he's 6'2". He is 6'2", 200, and he is honestly what safeties supposed to look like. I thought he's 6'3". He swears he's 6'2", but I thought he's 6'3". He's big.
I think he's 6'3"
he looks like
on
Kanai Walker looks like a safety,
Yeah.
but he's a quarterback. I thought he was a safety when he come in, and they said, no, he's cover corner. And I said, oh, he told me I'm a cover corner, and I said, wow. But they're getting big players in the secondary. Now, Jordan's 6 foot, 197. He's not the biggest of the bunch, Jordan Young, but 197 pounds. That's still heavier than a lot of guys that started back there. They're still on some defensive backs. They're not finished there. I don't think they're going to sign any linebackers, Jacob, unless somebody leaves that they're not expecting. Just like a quarterback, I don't think you're going to see a quarterback. the question, and they've got one tight end. I forgot to mention that. They got Jaden Platt paying him, and he is familiar. He was committed to Morgan Turner at Stanford, played for Bobby 1 year at A&M. So Jaden Platt's the tight end. I knew I was leaving somebody out. They're going to try to sign at least one more tight end. They had told me 2 or 3 is what they wanted up front. They got one. They like the high school guy. And, somebody told me, well, these kids are not Luke Cass. They're not. But what they are, they're bigger players, and they're probably, in all honesty, better blockers. And there's no way I'd slight to Luke Cass. I think he's the best player Arkansas lost in the portal. I love Luke Cass. I thought he was big time. I mean, I hate to see him and the Metcalf brothers and Brad Spence leave. Those were the 4 that I really hate. I mean, I didn't want anybody to leave, but I mean, the player left. But Luke Cass is unreal. So I'm not in any way. All I'm saying is, yes, they're not going to be receivers like Luke was, but they're all bigger and should be much better blockers. So you trade something, you get something, And you lose Luke Cass, you're not going to get another Luke Cass out of the portal. Mm-hmm. There's not one there. So you got to just go get somebody who can help you, and they feel like Jaden Platt can do that. In the secondary, Caleb Wooden is a defensive back from Auburn. Kid played against Arkansas, 6'1", 192-pound safety that they're looking at, Jacob. Probably will visit later this week. This window opens back up on January the 1st. The visit window does, and go for 5 days. So I think January the 1st, in that period, that 5 days, Wooden will probably make his way to campus. Question is, will he sign? I was going to say a while ago, now I remember Platt. Will he sign another receiver? That's the question, because they've got a couple really good ones looking at visiting. And I was told up front they wanted at least, here's the wording, at least 4 receivers. They've got 4. But the word wasn't, we want 4, at least 4 is what I was told. They've got a chance for Reginald Vick out of Virginia Union, for All-America at his level. And then Marcus Allen, who played at Eastern Michigan with Scandrick. He started his career 2 years at Wisconsin. He was a 4-star out of high school. So there's a couple of receivers. If they go for another one, and both those are bigger kids. Vick is 6'3", 185. Marcus Allen is 6'2", 212. They had some good-looking players on that Eastern Michigan team. I mean, Scandrick and this kid, those are big players for those positions. I said something about an offensive line. They're going to take another. And a kid from Maryland, Marcus Dumerville. I guess that's how you pronounce it. Dumervil. Dumerville. He's from Maryland, 6'5", 310 pounds. Would have 1 year of eligibility. He's a player I think is going to come in. He's coming in for a visit. And I think he's a player Arkansas might take on the offensive line. He might be more like Joe Moore, more from the kid they took last year that was kind of a jack of all trades on the offensive line. And to play, and I think that's what they might do there, because I think they feel pretty good, with their guards and tackles and their center. But you never get enough depth there. I mean, that's just the thing. And Sam likes to collect offensive linemen. He just does. So I think Dumberville, Marcus could come in and place and help him at various positions to be kind of a plug and play guy. Kind of like maybe the junior college that we had on Bubba Craig a few weeks ago. Bubba's another player that I feel like can provide some depth this year. Some people talk about him starting. I don't see that, but I do think he can provide quality depth. And but yeah, that's kind of where they're at right now. I don't know. I don't think they'll take another running back. They're not going to take a quarterback. I just want to say they're not going to do something. This is barring some unexpected. Kids have 5 days after the bowl game to enter the portal. So even though the portal's closed yesterday, they still have 5 days after the bowl game to jump back in or jump into the portal. So anything can happen. But as of right now, I don't see them taking another running back. I don't see them taking a quarterback. Question is, will it take one more receiver? Maybe. Another tight end for sure, and one more offensive lineman for sure. Defensive tackle. They went 4. They went 2 and 2, 2 ends, 2 tackles on defense. They've got 2 ends. So the tackle is the primary need there. And then the secondary, at least a safety and maybe another corner. They did add, I think we talked about it on here, but Keyshawn Davila from Northwest Mississippi Community College, the #1 junior college cornerback, #2 overall player in junior college. They did add him. I don't count him. He's not in the portal, so I don't count him in that. But I do know that the Arkansas landed him. I think we've talked about that, but I can't remember. I know we didn't do the show last week, and what I talked about 2 weeks ago, God knows, because I don't. So I'm sure I covered that. But anyway, that's another player that can step out. In fact, I wondered that one Saturday when Davila signed, the same day Kenai Walker signed. And I wondered that day on Twitter and Hogville and everywhere that I post, I said, I wonder if Arkansas got their starting cornerbacks today. Because you think about that, that's two pretty good ones right there, Keyshawn Davila and
Yeah.
Kenai Walker. So I don't know, but certainly too, it's going to be in the competition for that spot. I think that's fair to say. They'll have competition, but anyway, Arkansas's I like the class so far. I've seen it rated as high as 12th.
Yeah.
With the recruiting services, it's rated up. They've got a good class. I know some people get mad when I say that. They want me to trash them. They're not. This is a good class. Look, people come at me when I say it's a good class. They say, well, it's still going to be a 6-16. Look, I'm not saying how many games they'll win. I'm just telling you this is a good class. How many games they win is completely a different subject. And two things could be true. It may be a very good class. They may win 6 games. I don't know. But this is a good class, regardless of how it translates to coaching and stuff on the field. That's not for me to predict right now. I will later. But anyway, I like the class, and I think most people do that I've talked to. But it's going to be key to close out the right way, Jacob. I mean, about probably 4 to 6 more, 6 to 8 more players, maybe 4 to 6 to 8, somewhere in that range. And like I said, all this contingent on if no one else goes in the portal. What I'm saying today now, if two running backs or so, or a quarterback jumps in now, it can all change. But I'm just, as of right now, that's what we've got. That's what I'm thinking right now, and pretty well sourced out on all that stuff because I've talked to people who know or in the know and have told me stuff that numbers to expect at each position. So that's kind of where I'm going with this. It's not really guessing. It's pretty sourced out information.
Yeah, at one point in there, you said with the portal, anything can happen, and I think that's kind of just the banner phrase when it comes to the transfer portal, right? Anything can happen in terms of Arkansas or any other program, but I think with the class, a couple of things stick out. You know, you got 16 guys. You have guys that come in ready to play, but sometimes with the portal, you get in a situation where you miss out on opportunities for continuity and everything else because you go the route of 1-year rentals. And I think they've done a really good job of making it an extension of their recruiting operation. When you talk about guys like Crutchfield, you talk about guys like Blake, you talk about guys like Broussard, McCroy. These are all guys that have multiple years of eligibility remaining. So now you have an opportunity to develop these guys and make them a part of the program. An unfortunate reality, you know, they might walk out the door the next year the same way that, you know, Addison Nichols did this year when I remember saying the same thing about him. Man, he's got a couple of years of eligibility, right? That's the way college football works. But it's the idea, right, that you have the opportunity to make this an extension of your recruiting operation. And I like the way that they're doing that. And then the other thing that you and I just hammer home over and over and over and over and over again is this is once again an example of why you don't burn bridges, right? And Courtney Crutchfield's just the biggest example of that, right? Everybody throws, you know, an absolute just you know, panic party when he goes to Missouri, and rightfully so. You can't let a guy like that leave the state, understandably. And then 1 year later, you maintain that relationship and he comes to Arkansas, right? So you and I talk about that every single time. People are probably tired of hearing it, but it's just the truth. When you have guys like that, maintain a relationship because they'll come right back.
You know, I told somebody, I asked the question, if they just signed McCroy and Courtney Crutchfield last year, how people would have looked at that class much differently.
Yep.
I mean, 2 really highly ranked 4-star players that didn't come, and people got upset. But a year later, they're both coming here, and so well, really a half a school. 1 semester later, they're coming here. I know they went there at midterm and they stayed in the spring and then the summer, but I mean, basically, they have 1 season of football and then they left and came back to Arkansas. So, yeah, you don't want to burn bridges, not in this business, because you can't do that anymore because you just never know. Just like Morgan Turner had Jaden Platt at Stanford. Well, when they got fired out there and he left for Arkansas, Jaden Platt didn't follow him to Arkansas. But Morgan didn't burn a bridge.
Yeah.
He stayed in touch with the kid. And then Bobby coaching him for a year helped. But, you know, so the kid, well, he told me when he visited, he said Bobby Petrino and Morgan Turner were the reasons he was interested. So they didn't burn a bridge. So that's why you can't anymore. You just can't afford to do that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. It just, you have to maintain these relationships. And it's a good point when you talk about getting guys with eligibility as well, where, yeah, you had certain guys transfer out, but now when you add McCroy and Crutchfield to that 24 class, it makes it look a lot better in terms
Oh,
of
a
guys that
lot
you
better.
add. And those are guys that will continue to develop and stay with the program. And you lost a couple, but mainly that class is still together. And that's something interesting to watch. But you mentioned a little bit earlier about the visit window opening back up on the 1st. What does Arkansas have to expect in the upcoming week in terms of visits and more portal madness as far as that goes?
Yeah, I think Wooden will be here for a visit.
Yeah.
Caleb Wooden from Auburn. I think the offensive lineman Marcus from Maryland. I, the two receivers that I talked about, Reginald Vick and Marcus Allen, have visits set. I'm assuming those are still on, but I haven't heard anything different. Of course, I've been to Memphis, so I haven't really done worked this
Yeah.
portal stuff in the last few days. I've been to Memphis and back, and but as far as I know, those visits are still on. Uh, if I was Arkansas, I'd still take one more receiver. Although what Desmond James really shined over at Friday night, so I don't know, but no, I think they'll be looking for a defensive tackle in this next period. And people got to remember now, if you don't sign somebody in this next 5-day window, there's another period. There's another portal window opens in the spring after spring ball. So don't freak out. They've gotten a lot. Sam made a point to say they've gotten a lot of good players out of that second window. So they don't have to take someone this period just to fill a need. If they go into spring needing another defensive tackle, they can take a gamble and wait till after spring ball and take one then. So yeah, there's they would probably love to sign somebody right now and have him in spring ball, but it's not a necessity. I mean, it's not something that they have to do. So uh and people, one thing to remember on all this recruiting too, they signed 24 high school kids and junior college players. So they're going to be in the mix too this spring. Like I think 19 or 20 of those 24 are coming at midterm. I'll have a story this week on who all's coming at midterm. But yeah, I mean, you got most of those, plus you got the 16 kids out of the portal. So that's probably around 35, 40 new players going to be here in the spring that wasn't here. And then you got your returning Razorbacks. And so it's going to be pretty exciting spring ball out there, as it always is anymore. But I agree with your point that they're not signing all 1-year rentals because I do think that I think you can do that and it serves as a detriment. I mean, you want to take some.
Yeah, fill spots you need instant plug and play guys, right? But you also want guys you can develop.
But you can't. I don't think you want to take like 30 kids out of the portal and all be 1-year rentals. Because what you're doing, you're setting yourself up to just be every year. It's just the same, repeat the same product. And I know people will say, well, if you get these young guys, they'll leave after a year. Well, they might do it. But what if they don't? What if Andrew Armstrong stayed 2 years? Sorry, stayed 2 years. Carmona. Oh, he ain't going to stay for another year. He'll be over the NFL. He's staying for another year. So what? I mean, Cam Ball, he stayed for 3 years or 4. So, I mean, you can look at it negatively and say, well, they're not going to stay. So why? But that's not the case. I mean, in some cases it is, some cases it's not. Every kid's different. I think Crutchfield, he wanted to come home basically since he got to Missouri.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's going to be looking for the first door to open and get out of here. McCroy, I think he realized as soon as he got to Oregon or soon after he made a mistake. And his parents were on him about the distance. His mother didn't want to go that far from home. So I think they got some kids that they recruited the first time that knew after they got where they were at that maybe the grass wasn't as green as they thought it was. And I think those kids are, I mean, they can always hit the portal, but I don't think that's what they're looking to do. They're looking to continue their careers at Arkansas and have success for the Razorbacks.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think as long as there's a healthy balance, there is a place, right, for 1-year rental guys. If you say if we have a position, say you have, right, 3 freshmen, at a certain position, or in a sophomore you're not super confident in, you need to go get a plug and play starter while those guys develop. Sure, it just has to be a balance of both, and I think that's what they're doing really well. You're giving yourself, of course, some of these guys are going to transfer, but it becomes, I keep using the phrase over and over again, I'm beating it to death a little bit too much. It becomes an extension to your recruiting operation because you bring in guys that have 3-4 years of eligibility and you develop them in the same way that you would recruiting. And let's be honest, Arkansas fans not excited about where high school recruiting is. You have to factor in where portal is, and that's what Arkansas has to do to kind of close the gap with everybody else. But before we go,
play next fall, most part.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
portal kids are growing. I'm not saying high school player. Well, guys like Kevin Otis and Travion Wallace and others
Yeah,
will. Braylon Russell played this year. There'll be high school player, but the majority of your player, I think all 16 of these kids are going to be counted on to play
yeah,
next. Whereas not every 24 high school kids go or
yeah. Only a
22,
couple.
and two junior college. Yeah, so you'll have guys like Kevin Otis and Tavion Wallace and others. I'm top of my head, but those are guys that can play.
Yeah. Well, before we go, let's talk a little bowl game, something on the football field. Yeah, Arkansas takes down Texas Tech. A fun game, a back and forth game, a game that honestly I didn't expect to go the way that it did. I kind of went in thinking, hey, maybe Arkansas will struggle to score with an offensive line that's patched all together and some receivers we haven't seen before. And hey, I also think Texas Tech will struggle to score because they've got a true freshman quarterback playing. Instead of shootout, Arkansas comes out on top in a really fun way and an intriguing way with what we saw from a whole lot of new faces to go into the 2025 season now.
Yeah, I think Arkansas had a huge advantage though in that game.
Yeah.
The fact that Taylor Green played and their quarter Garen Morton, I believe, he didn't play. I think that's a huge. But you lose running backs, you lose receivers, but when you lose your quarterback, especially one that hadn't played but 23 snaps, that hurt. Or passed for 23 times. He played more snaps, but he'd attempted 23 passes. But I think Arkansas had a huge advantage at quarterback, and I think that was. I think people probably didn't realize how big advantage that was. Now, he had to have guys like Desmond James, C.J. Brown step up and really have good games. Obviously Isaac had a huge game, but that was to be expected. I mean, we all figured he would have a huge game, and he did. And even stood on his head. I don't know how he did that, but he did.
That was right in front of me. That was cool.
that was cool. That was. But anyway, I think I'd break my neck if I tried that. But anyway, no, he's even his age, I would have broke my neck if I'd tried that. Not now. It's rather book now. But I just feel like that the bowl game, I heard Charlie Collins' name mentioned a few times. It was good to see Marquise Robinson and Miguel Mitchell get intercepted, guys that maybe hadn't really. Some people might say they'd been disappointments this season, yet they come into the bowl game and picked off some passes. Anton, defensive end. I mean, he really, probably healthier than he's been in a while, and it showed. I mean, he stepped up and made some big plays there. So, obviously, Xavier and Stephen Dix. I mean, they had the game people expected them to have. I told the guy from Texas Tech, I said, you could name Story every game, MVP just about on the. I guess the Auburn game you would have put TJ Metcalf, but other than that, it's been about Story. You could almost name him any other game, name him the MVP on defense, and you wouldn't be wrong. But anyway, Taylor. The big thing about Taylor, he had no turnovers.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
And that's huge because the games they've won the turnover battle. They've won all 6 of them. The one they've lost. They lost the turnover battle in 7 games. The only game they won was Louisiana Tech, and that was because Louisiana Tech's offense was just too weak to take advantage. And but their defense was good at Tech, but their offense wasn't good enough to take advantage of the miscues. But when they have a clean game and Taylor plays clean, they win, and it's just been proven over and over. And hopefully next season he can go into the season and not turn the ball over and so much anyway. There'll be some, but limit the turnovers and just have fun out there. And I thought he was having fun the other night.
Oh yeah,
it's really fun to watch. As you said earlier, different players, new players, Desmond James, C.J. Brown. I know C.J. played a little bit, but he had a good catch, 4 good catches if I'm not mistaken. I think Desmond had 3, including that 94-yard touchdown. Just caught it and outran everybody. Broke a few tackles along the way. I remember when I saw him on his recruiting visit. I saw him. I didn't know who he was. Man, he looked good. I thought, man, that's a good looking kid. You do. My phone blew up and my own Instagram. I mean, Twitter messages, Facebook messages. Where's he been all season? Why hasn't he played? And I said, good question. I don't know, but. So, and instantly, anybody had my phone number, started texting me. I told Courtney, she was sitting next to me, or maybe it's Alyssa, but I said, my phone's blowing up about this, about Desmond. Courtney or Alyssa, whichever was sitting there, I think it was Courtney. But anyway, I told him that. But yeah, I mean, it's a legit question, but I don't know. But But anyway, I know he's probably helped his stock for next season, no doubt. Well, I
Yeah.
don't think probably there's no doubt that Desmond helped his stock for the spring ball and and everything. So we'll see how that if he carries over the bowl game into the spring, then into summer, then into preseason, then into fall ball.
Yeah,
See,
I understand people's frustrations with bowl games and
well,
people opting out and how screwed up the college football calendar is right now. But if you're looking for the silver lining, we've talked about it a lot. That's what it is. You get a chance to look at these guys. I mean, Kobe Branham comes in, and he's a guy that Pittman had talked about throughout the year and said, man, hey, he's really coming on, and he gets an opportunity to start as a true freshman. And that offensive line that had never played together gives up 1 sack. And yeah, Texas Tech is one of the worst defenses in the entire country. I understand all of that, but you get a chance to look at guys like Charlie Collins, guys like Desmond James. They get an opportunity, they shine, and they put themselves in a good position for 2025, and they give you an idea of what they look like in game action. I understand the frustrations with it all, but that is the positive if you're looking for it. You get a chance to look at these guys and see what they can do.
exactly. Edmonds is a kid I want to mention too from Bryant that
Yeah.
started scholarship and played center. And I'll be honest with you, I thought the snaps were better to Taylor than the were during the season.
Yeah.
Edson had some snaps, and I'm not dogging the kid, but I mean, there were some snaps where Taylor had trouble feeling them. They were alpha side or low. And I thought Friday night, I keep wanting to say Saturday, but Friday night over there, I thought the snaps were a lot better. We're all crisp, right to Taylor for the most part. I thought Edmondson had a great game, and he earned that scholarship. I remember seeing him at the Monster Camp at Monster Combine at Maumelle. He and J.J. Hollingsworth, Andrew Chamley, Nico, all the top players were there. And Edmondson was there that day at Maumelle High School at a Monster Camp. And I saw him, and I really liked him then. And then he walked on to Arkansas, and I said, Arkansas got a steal there. And it took a few years, but eventually it's showing that they did get a steal there.
Yeah.
He's earned a scholarship, and if he showed that game, if he has to play, it's not like they lose a whole lot.
Yeah, absolutely. It was an impressive game, and again, you said it about Taylor. It was the no turnovers. I mean, I don't know how many times
that's
we
huge.
have to say it.
That's what he's got to strive for in spring, in this fall. Is cut down, eliminate turnovers, and if he can do that, I think he'll be one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC. If he doesn't, it's going to continue to haunt Arkansas because the games where he and Quindon and the others had multiple turnovers. I know Isaiah dropped. Wait, I don't think it was Isaiah's fault. He dropped a couple of punts. People got blocked into him, and get that cleaned up. And just clean up some stuff and don't have the turnovers. Arkansas was very competitive this year, except for the Ole Miss game.
Yeah,
even the LSU game, it was 16-10. It was 5 minutes. You mentioned that 5 minutes left in the third quarter, and they had to turn. What happened? Turnover, interception. It went to pieces after that.
Yeah.
But the Ole Miss game was the only game that just went out there and got away from them early, and and so they were very competitive in all the games except that, and so just eliminate turnovers and they'll be even more competitive.
Yeah, and I think it's sometimes people that they misconstrue when we say, you get rid of the turnovers, that we're saying they would have won the game or something like that. That's not the case, but it's about giving yourself the opportunity to win the football game, right? Because if you go through all of the losses, it's just an objective fact that you can point to one play, and every single one of them pretty much was a turnover. At LSU, it was
fumble at the 10-yard line.
The
fumble at the 10-yard line against Texas. What if it doesn't happen? They may not win, but what if it hasn't happened? They may have won.
You have an opportunity to win.
I think you named 20-something plays that game. And that's true. That's very true. That was more than one. There were so many, and it took all those for Arkansas to lose that game. The one they probably would have won. Two, they would have won. They had about 20, not turnovers, but missed field goals, missed fourth downs, not because they were scared to kick field. Just all kinds of things. Pick six. All kinds of things against Oklahoma State. I mean, there was no way they could lose that game, and they found a bunch of ways to lose it. It took all of them to lose it, even that. That was they were so much better in Oklahoma State. But anyway, I don't know if they'd won or not. But all I'm saying, if they hadn't fumbled the 10-yard line against A&M, it would have been interesting. If don't fumble Missouri twice on their end of the field.
14 points.
One, but who knows?
Yeah.
You give yourself a better chance is what I'm saying and what you're saying. It gives Arkansas a much better chance when they don't put themselves in a hole by fumbling and 5-yard line, interception, run to the 2. You do that, fumble at the 10-yard line, fumble twice in Missouri in your territory against Missouri. You're making it difficult to win.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, or you can point to in every single one of these losses, sometimes when you're talking about these games, you'll say, hey, the one play I remember is, Texas A&M, in a hypothetical. Texas A&M hit a 55-yard post down the middle of the field. What a play from the quarterback to the receiver. A&M wins the game, but that wasn't the case. The point is, in all these games, the play that you remember in almost every single case was a turnover that turned the game. Like you're saying, the A&M fumble at the 10.
It's all of them. I mean,
Driving against
LSU.
Texas and the C.J. Brown fumble, the LSU fumble, all of the ones against Oklahoma State. And all we're saying is that when you look back on games, you want it to be the other team beating you and not you beating yourself, right? And so if Arkansas can eliminate those turnovers, it doesn't mean that Arkansas goes 12-0, but they sure have a better opportunity to win those football games. And that has to be number one priority heading into 2025. They
undoubtedly would have beaten Oklahoma State. And I think they would have won some of those. You never know, but
you don't know.
But I do think, I don't know that I saw enough man in to make me think they would have beat Arkansas without that fumble at the 10. Missouri, I don't know. I mean, Missouri, but I will say this: Missouri's found, well, A&M too have found ways to beat Arkansas when you think there's no way they can do it. So who knows? But yeah, you give yourself a much better chance in those games than if you'd than just hand it to them like that. I mean, and it's just something they've got to clean up. And if Taylor can clean that up, I think he will be one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC. And
I agree.
If you're one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC, you're one of the better players in the country. If you're at your position, if you're in the SEC, because that's one of the two premier conferences, no doubt.
Yep. That turnovers, it has to be the number one priority heading into 2025. And it's funny, that's about 8 months away. We'll be talking about game number 1, and that'll fly by. But before then, we got a whole lot of portal talk, a whole lot of recruiting to talk about in the offseason, so we'll look forward to that. But that's going to do it for this week's Arkansas Football Recruiting Report. For Otis Kirk, I'm Jacob Morris. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Otis.
You bet.